Hello and welcome to this Astranti YouTube video taking a look at the difference between a legal executive and a solicitor. This is part of our video series on the guide to becoming a legal executive. Now, you may not be too familiar with the phrase legal executive, but I'm sure you all know what a solicitor is. So in this video, we're going to explain the differences between the two. Now, it's worth noting, as I've mentioned here on the screen, that the answer to this question is probably a lot different now than it would have been a decade or 2 decades ago. So in the past, legal executives were very much the admin assistants of the legal world. They would have done a lot of the administrative work, a lot of the legwork, a lot of the paperwork for solicitors. But nowadays, legal executives have a lot more power. They contribute a lot more on a direct basis. Legal executives are far more up at the same level with solicitors as they were compared to 10, 20 years ago, particularly with the new CILEX professional qualification, which actually grants the same rights of audience as a solicitor. So it's never been a better time to train to qualify as a legal executive because it's now a far more prestigious career path. There's far more parity between a legal executive and a solicitor. But I'm just going to go through a few key differences between the two because they are still different roles. So the first thing that is different between a legal executive and a solicitor is the route to qualify. There's a different path to qualify as a legal executive versus a solicitor. The important thing here is that if you are looking to qualify as a legal executive, it's a far more open route than qualifying as a solicitor. Because to qualify as a legal executive, you need to be working to get a job in the legal field. But it does not need to be a trainee solicitor role. It does not need to be a role that you already have to have a qualification for. You can study the actual qualification, the exams, outside of your job as well. So even if you're not currently working as a legal executive or as a trainee legal executive, you can take the exams, and then before you can actually qualify, you will need a certain amount of practical work experience, but it will be far easier to get a job once you've got those qualifications, and in fact you can probably go in at a higher level as well. And then once you have the relevant legal experience, you can qualify as a full legal executive, which, if you've done the full CPQ, holds the same rights of audience as a solicitor. But the cost of qualifying as a legal executive is far lower than a solicitor as well. The 3 main levels of the CPQ, which is the main CILEX qualification, on average, you can qualify for less than £10,000, and your employer may pay for that as well. In fact, a lot of CILEX students have at least some part of their fees paid for by their employer. Now, this, of course, when you compare that to a solicitor, where to be a solicitor, you need to have first done a law degree. So you're looking at £27,000 to do a law degree. If you've done a non-law degree, so if that is a BA, if that is a BSc, a non-law degree, not an LLB, you will then need to do a conversion course, which is another year of studying and another £10,000. After that, you'll need to do the solicitor's qualifying exams, which is between 10 and 20,000, another year or 2, before you can actually start working. And then you need to do 2 years on a training contract, which doesn't necessarily guarantee you a job once you have finished either. So it's quicker, cheaper, and easier and less closed off to qualify as a legal executive than it is to qualify as a solicitor. Now, initially that would of course made more sense because a solicitor was held in a far higher regard, but particularly given that legal executives and solicitors, there's less disparity between them, it makes the legal executive qualifying route look all the more appealing. But what about other differences? What about the scope of practice? Now, legal executives specialize in particular areas. So family law, criminal law, property law. Whereas solicitors have a much wider scope of practice and can practice in all areas of law. They may specialize in specific areas, defense attorneys, for example, contract lawyers, etc., contract solicitors, corporate solicitors, but they can, in theory, practice on a much wider scope, whereas a legal executive will need to specialize in a certain area. They don't specialize once qualified, they specialize during the actual qualification process because it determines which specific exams you sit in your qualification. They also have rights to audience, which is something that legal executives didn't used to have, but this is in the lower courts. So in the civil route, that would be the county courts, the criminal courts, that would be the magistrates' courts. They do not at present have the rights to audience to represent clients in the higher courts, but can work directly with a solicitor or barrister when appearing in those courts. Whereas a solicitor, of course, can exercise those rights of audience in all courts. And then the professional bodies. The legal executives, there are a few different qualification routes, but the main one is the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives, whereas solicitors are regulated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority and members of the Law Society. So different professional bodies represent each of the professions, but both of these professions have a lot of standing within the legal field, and they are both professional bodies. So what that means is there are certain external standards that must be hit by all members within those bodies, by all training providers and qualification providers for those bodies, and by all employers within those fields as well. So there are constant external standards that must repeatedly be set with regards to continual professional development, with regards to ethics, with regards to confidentiality, integrity of the profession, etc. So again, very similar with regards to what is expected of qualified legal executives and what is expected of qualified solicitors as well. So you can see that there are some key differences between the two, but as I've mentioned before, the disparity between the two has never been smaller. So again, if you are looking to get into the legal field, then the legal executive route may be more appealing than it has ever done before, especially with regards to those of you that want to specialize in certain areas, the ones that you know where you want to specialize. If you want to qualify more quickly and cheaply whilst also earning while you are learning. So thank you for watching, and please join me for the next video where we're going to look at the actual process of qualifying as a legal executive, covering both the key skills, the practical experience required, and the qualifications required. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you for that video. And once again, check out our website, www.astranti.com, and also like and subscribe so that you can make sure you see the next video when it comes out.